Welcome back to We Are BU, a podcast brought to you by Bethel University Athletics and Eyes Up Mindset. I'm John Shirkey, here with my friend and my co-host, my teammate, Jamie Wagner, back for another episode. And this one for us is incredibly personal, Jamie, because it's football, but all of Bethel athletics are incredibly important, but we get to highlight football today.
Yeah. And I've said it in the first couple episodes, but getting to have these conversations is so life-giving. And I hope it's life-giving for those of you that are listening out there to hear the words that we've heard before still being said. I was listening to a book the other day, and it was talking about this thing that we do in repetition becomes the thing that becomes who we are, right? It becomes transformational. And this really cool thing, if we allow it. Right. And that's kind of a theme in the conversation today. We get to talk to Paul Swann, running backs coach, film master extraordinaire, who has an unbelievable story about how he got to Bethel and how he's still there through this awesome time that he's been there and just his experience. And then we get to catch up with some really cool other people. Who else we talked to today?
We got, Jaren Rossdy, starting quarterback. He's in the middle of, an incredible season, and also an incredible off the field things that he's got going on right now. I can't wait to share that with you. You probably, if you're listening to this and you don't know who he is, he's got articles out there about him, the whole thing. But even better is he's a humble dude who's willing to give his gifts, give his heart away. And then we finish it up with Jay Hillbrands, the alumni for this episode, who's working out at the University of Washington as an associate athletic director. And he's just got some really cool experiences and things from his time at Bethel that have, again, created who he is today and his walk.
And I just think it's so cool to see, we had Katie Larson on last week, and you get Trent Anderson, these alums that are doing very different things. Trent's, coaching and teaching. Katie's in the medical field. Jay's in healthcare, and they're all just pouring into people, right? They're pouring into people and growing people where they are, right? That's where they're been called to serve. And in that way, they're doing it in an amazing way. And we are so well prepared to live and to give because of how much the sports program and the university have given to us. And we're excited to give this conversation to you guys.
Bethel University football. Here we go. Coach Paul Swann, or most people call him Swanny. You were our coach when we were there, Coach. Man, every time we get to do this, Jamie, this is such a blessing for us to talk to people that have poured into us so much. Coach, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we can think back real fondly to so many small moments. And I think that's one of my favorite things about my college football experience. We all remember the big moments. We have those things, but the little moments were so valuable. Just a conversation in the hallway. And that was one thing that I always appreciated about you. You were always willing to stop and talk. Your office door was always open if we needed some film. What is your role particularly? Because I think you wear a lot of hats.
Well, I'm the running backs coach, first of all, and that's my main interest and focus. But I do all of the film editing and collecting film from the opponents and breaking it down and getting it to coaches and players. And so I probably spend a lot more time doing that than I do actually coaching the running backs. But I've got a great group of backs. They always have had. They coach themselves. They teach me a lot more than I teach them. So, so I coach the running backs and do the film. That's basically it.
So speaking of running backs, Coach, you've had 2 All-Americans while you were there. I want to know, what secrets did you give Phil and Logan to turn them into All-Americans?
I basically stayed out of their way. I always tell my guys the last time I carried a football in a football game was 1964. So I'll teach you where you need to be and when you need to be there and how to get there. After that, you're on your own. So Those guys were unbelievable talent. My first year was Mike Johnson was here, he was a senior. As a junior, he was an All-American, and really thankful for him. He taught me a lot about, what college football, running back and stuff was all about. So, but I've been blessed with greatly talented kids over the years. They've made me look really good.
I got to be there for Phil and Logan, right? I got to be part of Phil and part of Logan, and they're special guys, period, not just special talent, special dudes, and I think that's one of the things that you can't ignore about the Bethel experience is kind of the more on-field success they have, the more you want to just be around them as people, because they grow you and they challenge you and they push you in ways that are really, really cool. And I think obviously you're a part of that.
Well, they challenge me and encourage me every day, way more than I do them. It's a blessing to coach kids like we get to coach here. And I believe firmly that a lot of our on-field success is due to the kind of character and the care our guys have for each other and the way they look out for each other and love each other. So that's huge.
So, Coach, we try to talk about it sometimes, and we host another podcast, which you know, and we talk about it on there, and we try to quantify it. And sometimes it's hard for us because having experienced it, we just know what it was like, and we feel it, and we live it every day. The gifts and the tools that were given to us. How would you kind of quantify that character? How you live on and off the field? How you go to practice every day? What is it about Bethel football that makes it such an incredible experience?
Well, you guys brought up Logan and Phil, and there's another character in that scenario called a guy by the name of Jared Bangs. You guys, I'm sure, know. He sat behind Porter for 3 years, and Jared was a really good player. He had some big moments when Phil. I remember in 2006, Phil got hurt at St. John's, and Jared stepped in and did an amazing job. And so he's the heir apparent his senior year. He's the guy. He's waited 3 years for it. And so we go down to Buena Vista, and he played really well, but we didn't win, and it was just one of those rotten days. And we came back the next week against Simpson, and we were struggling, and Logan went in, and we went off. And I walk into my office on Monday morning, and Jared's sitting there, and he says, "Coach, I know that Logan's." So here I go. He said, "I know Logan's going to be the starter." He said, "But I just want you to trust me." And every film session from that day on, he sat right by Logan, and he taught him everything he could teach him, knowing full well that Logan was the guy, and he was. But whenever it was Jared's turn, he stepped up. He was always ready. So I think that really, to me, says more about what Bethel football is all about than anything I could say.
Yeah, that constant show up and take the role that you've been given and understand that you still have something to give in that role. Mm-hmm. I was there for that. I got to see Logan's coming out party against Concordia the next week after Simpson. Logan blows up the next week. We win 48-45 in a triple overtime game. And Logan has, he's the reason we win the game. Yeah. And Jared knew that Monday, and the things that he did. Again,
he helped Logan. He helped Logan so much and taught him so much and was always there for him. And it's just a cool thing, just a really cool thing.
So there's a million of those stories, Coach. And in my head, I'm thinking of not only the guys that we played with, Jared Hall, AJ Parnell, those guys that were incredibly influential to their teammates, to the program, to everybody around them, that were really good players that didn't play a ton because there were other guys, right? And they supported them and they stood behind them. And then you go back to, Swann, you and I go back a long ways to, my brothers being there before me. And I can just in my head picture every Saturday, my dad going and giving you a hug. And, but I think back to even those days where there's guys that are really good that aren't playing, but they're still there. And I think, in this day and age where we're especially now with the transfer portal and all of this me stuff and the social media and get mine and all this stuff, how does Bethel continue to have these guys show up that say, "Hey, I'm just going to pour into my teammates. If I play, great. If my time comes, I'm going to be ready. If not, I'm going to fulfill my role.
Well, I think it's modeled by the coaches, and then these young guys come in and they see seniors that are pouring themselves into our team and not getting to play. And I just think it's a culture thing that, Coach Jay has just built an amazing culture here. And, we always tell our guys, this place will change your life if you let it. And our young guys come in and, some of them it takes longer than others, but they buy in, because it's modeled day after day, the selflessness and the love for your teammates. And, you hear a lot about brotherhood and teams, and everybody talks about it. And I just think ours is unique. And like you guys say, you can't really put it into words.
Well, that model is so crucial, right? You have to be seeing it consistently and then knowing that it's okay. I talk with coaches and teams all the time about, you got to show them that it's possible. And then it doesn't feel so weird, right? To walk through the door and actually do it. My question about that is, did you see that from the very beginning when your son was playing? Because you have a really unique story that is not normal, right? You don't live in the cities you don't live in St. Paul most of the year. Yeah. What brought you there? How did you get into this role?
Well, it's a great question, and it's a fun story to tell. When I came here on a recruiting visit with my son Eric, this would have been in the spring of '95. And I sat with Coach Jay's office and watched him cry, and he made me cry. And, I knew right away that I wanted to be at Bethel. I don't know if Eric did or not, but I knew I did. And so he decided to come here, and I came, like you were saying, John, at every game I was at. And he didn't play much as a freshman. He played a little bit and then became a starter, and then got hurt and missed his senior year. And but just the whole experience, they allowed me to have coaches allowed me to come and have breakfast with them and sit in the pregame meetings. And I'm sitting by my wife in the bleachers, the first game at Bethel I'd ever been to at Bethel. And I leaned over and I said, it'd be really awesome to coach here. Who knew that would happen? No. And now 20 years later, I'm still here. So it's crazy. My wife's she's unbelievable. I mean, most wives wouldn't put up with their husband leaving home for 4 months and coaching football, but she loves Bethel. She loves our kids basically because she knows how much I love it, how happy they make me. But she's awesome. Kathy's her name, by the way.
So if you're out there listening and you don't know Swanny's story, he lives in Illinois most of the year. Is a retired teacher and coach, and still coaches there, right? In the winter, coach still.
Right, still coaching basketball. Let me hang around. School.
Yep.
They still let me hang around.
And such an incredible gift of service and just again giving of yourself to a place and a program to build others, and just an incredible example. So, Coach, what
you need to know one thing. You need to know that people talk about my sacrifice and what I give. And I don't ever look at it that way. I've gotten so much more from Bethel than I could have ever given.
It's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
If you're willing.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but.
I'll interrupt anytime.
No, that thing that you're saying, right? This, if you're willing, right? It'll transform you if you're willing. If you go and you give, you're going to be open to getting in a way that is so valuable. That's something I had no conceptualization of prior to walking in the door there.
Right.
I couldn't have ever articulated that up until the moment when I started to see it. You know what I mean? I think that the thing we say is that we don't understand it, right? We don't understand how you can choose, I'm going to go and live somewhere else for 4 years or for 4 months every year, and to do it for as long as you've done it. And so we look at that and we say, that's a sacrifice. And the thing that we know deep down, those of us that have been there and done it, is like, I would do that too. I would go and live and experience that thing too. If I had that opportunity, it wouldn't feel like a sacrifice. And that in itself speaks to the value, right? Speaks to the joy, speaks to the heartfulness of what that place offers.
Yeah.
Can you speak to how that tying of faith to sports frees the Bethel football team and the Bethel programs generally to go and chase excellence in a really cool way?
Well, I would say this, Bethel University and the football, it's based on the fact that Jesus Christ sent his son to die for us.
Yeah.
And so how dare we not run and be free and give everything we have to our program, to each other, and to the university. I mean, how dare we not do that? And so I think that's what that basis of our program is, what frees us up to do what we do. I mean, we got a bunch of guys that are, they love Jesus and they're soft-hearted guys, but they're tough suckers as well. So you hear Coach Jay say that all the time, but I really believe it's true. We're a lot better than people think we should be because we're a Christian school, and but we got some tough suckers here, and not just strength or hitting hard, or just tough people who do the right thing day after day and pour into each other day after day.
Well, that's what you spoke to with Banks too, right? That
right,
like
absolutely.
Jared, that is a toughness conversation. That is not
absolutely.
That is not I'm like feel bad for myself. I got to step up and do the right thing, even though it's incredibly challenging. That's an example of toughness. Absolutely.
It takes a man to do what he did. I mean, it was incredible story for him. Yeah.
Coach, we've managed to go, I don't know, 15, 17 minutes, something like that, and not even talk about where we're at right now. Talk a little bit about this year's team, where we're headed, where we're sitting.
Well, we got a big game tomorrow with Augsburg. Obviously, the winner of that game will play St. John's next weekend for the conference championship and the automatic playoff bid. So we're in playoff mode right now, but we've had a great year. Our guys have played really well, and we've overcome some things, and it's just been neat to see them pull together. And I tell my running backs all the time, I love the way we work, and I love the way we care for each other, and go out and we want to play as hard as we can for as long as we can, and we think we can do that longer than most teams, and that's what we try to do every week.
Can you speak to the depth?
That's what we'll try to do tomorrow.
Can you speak to some of the depth that has to be inherent in that, and how guys say, you know what, I'm going to give everything I got, and when I don't, the guy behind me, I think especially in the running back room for the last 10 years, it's been kind of since Logan was done, because it was Mike Johnson set the MIAC record, then Phil set the MIAC record, then Logan set the MIAC record, kind of keep raising the bar. And then once Logan was done, it's like, nah, we're going to have a bunch of guys that can carry the rock and do it. And you guys are still in that
what
place.
We've had. Yeah, we have. And the running back room this year it's as deep a group as I can remember having in my time here. We've got some really good players that are, fourth and fifth in line. And, but I trust every one of them to go in. I mean, I'd put any one of them in the game and trust them. And so, that's huge. I mean, you got to practice like you're going to play, even if you may not, that's what our guys do.
Swann, you got anything else you want to share with us? Any nuggets of wisdom? I feel like I don't always have the right question to ask you, because I'm used to. Well, that's all right.
I don't know that I have any pearls of wisdom. God's been so good to me, and He's blessed me with good health, and I'm a little long in the tooth, but I'm still able to do this and hopefully do a good job, and just thankful and grateful that God led me here to Bethel. It's changed my life, and taught me a lot of great lessons. So,
do you have any sense?
Go ahead.
Do you have any sense? Is it a year-to-year decision, or is it like? I mean, you say you're getting a little long in the tooth. We know you got energy for days, Swanee, but do you have any sense of how long you're going to continue to be here and serving in this way? I mean, I don't want.
I want to go as long as I'm still valuable and can do it, and I sign 1-year contracts every year. Let's put it that way.
You and LeBron both, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Okay.
I'm sure
Yeah,
the compensation
I
is similar too. You and LeBron, 1-year contracts.
Yeah. He makes a little more than I do, but that's okay. No, I just, I think the biggest thing I've learned at being at Bethel is happy is the man who's grateful. And that would be my words to leave with you.
And it's such an incredibly simple statement, and yet difficult to do sometimes. But when you are able to do it, it changes your life. It changes how you live, your relationships, and we say it all the time. The people there changed us, not the football. The football part of it is bonus. It's extra. It's the cherry on the top, right? But it's the people that really transform that place. And you are a huge part of that program, that community, and the lives that you have touched is just innumerable. So thank you from me. I wish I could give you a hug, and sometime soon we'll do it again.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys so much. Very proud of what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Love you guys.
Love you too, Swann.
Love you too, Swann. Thanks.
So I was remiss to not ask this when it came up, but I'm very curious as to how does this process get going where you end up at Bethel? Do you reach out? Does Coach Jay reach out to you? How does that happen?
Well, I made that comment to my wife at the game. It was just a very offhanded comment. And I never ever gave it another thought that I would ever do it. And so I'm getting ready to retire. And in the meantime, Coach Jay and I had become pretty good friends. He would visit Chicago, stay at my house. His kids, we'd go to Cub games and hang out. And so he calls me and says, I want you to think about coming up here and coaching. Yeah, right. Okay, sure. And so I thought about it. I knew it was something I would love to do, but I didn't know how it was going to work out. I know I wasn't going to ask my wife to move. And so I mulled it around for a while. One day I just said out of the blue, I said, Kathy, what would you think if I went and stayed up in Minnesota and coached football at Bethel? She said, I think it would be awesome. You need to do it. And so right away she gave, I don't know if she wanted to get rid of me or what, but right away she gave her blessing on it. And my kids were not on board right away. Eric was actually pretty mad at me. He said, why would you do that? Why would you leave mom? And so that bothered me for a while. My daughter she couldn't understand it. And so I asked her one day, I said, well, what would you think if I was a big league baseball umpire? Oh man, that would be really cool. As you know, those guys are on the road 7 months a year. They're never home. She said, oh yeah. So she kind of got on board with it. She couldn't understand why I didn't do it at Wheaton or Trinity. She just didn't understand, that I wanted to be at Bethel. And then, so I went ahead and finally I decided I'm going to do this, and I don't need Eric's permission, but I'd like to have it. I'd like to have his blessing. And so I made the decision. I told the coaches at Stevenson, and then within 3 days, I got an email from Eric saying, we're going to have a blast with you up here. So I've lived with him off and on the whole time I've been up here. I'm living with him and his family right now. So that's kind of how it all happened. And I was going to come up and help Coach Jay with the offensive line. And then during that summer, the running backs coach quit. He said, hey, I want you to coach the running backs. And I said, yeah, okay. So, man, I didn't know what I was getting in for or anything, but it's been a fun deal to see, just to see how how our program has grown and how I've grown as a person, as a coach, as a dad and husband. And it's just been really cool. So no, I didn't seek it out. It just kind of happened. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So Swanny, how do you make that work with your marriage? You've been married a long time, and to spend,
don't ask me how many.
I wouldn't dare.
I think it's 47, but anyway,
that's again.
That's a great question, and honestly, it was a wonderful thing for our marriage. It really was. I mean, she would drive up here on the weekend. We'd get a hotel, and we just had great times together, and we really learned to appreciate each other a lot more than we did. And it like anything else, it can get humdrum and you just take things for granted. And it taught us not to take things for granted. We realized how much we meant to each other. And it was really a good thing. I mean, strange as that sounds, it really strengthened us a lot. And now I'm living with my son. So we have a nice room and shower and bathroom in the basement. So she's able to come up. She spent 4 weeks up here this year with me. So,
That's awesome.
so it's been a cool deal. It really has.
Incredible stuff. Thanks, Coach.
Got it.
Now joined by Jaren Rossdy. Jaren, everybody probably, if they follow Bethel football, has heard of you, knows a little bit about you, but I want to get to something before I even, we get into the nitty gritty. I have an issue with your bio on the roster. And for me, because it says your hometown is Alexandria, little birdie told me that maybe your family has moved. We need to adjust that a little bit.
Yeah, I think we need to switch it up a little bit. Now I technically reside in Glenwood, Minnesota, but they're right there. It's
which
close.
would be my hometown. So
okay.
So I went to Minnewaska High School. Tim Beasley, who's the baseball coach there and helps us out with the podcast, he and I have talked extensively. Now we're going to claim you as the most famous Bethel athlete to come out of Glenwood. So just so you know, we're going to claim you now.
You can claim it. I'm good. I'm good with that.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate this for sure.
So John asked me a question that I'm now going to direct to you. It feels like you have been there a long time as the starting quarterback at Bethel University. How is it possible that you have another year of eligibility?
I mean, it does feel like forever, I'll be honest. So I graduated high school 2017, spent 1 year at the U of M, so I redshirted that year. So there's one extra year, I guess. And then I started here fall of 2018. Obviously, that first year we had a great run into the Elite Eight of the NCAA playoffs. The next year, 2019, was my second year. 2020 COVID year, so that didn't count. And we also got the extra year. So this year, I guess you could say, is my COVID year, my third year. And then next year, if I wanted to come back, would be my fourth year, the year that I redshirted at the U. So it is weird to think, but I do technically have another year. Yeah.
And you're doing graduate work right now, right? Have you graduated? Is that, and you're in the graduate school program? What's the program you're working in?
Yeah, so I graduated in May of 2021 with business and political science and 5 through 12 social studies education. Right now I'm in the education graduate program. So K-12 education with a concentration in special education. So program's been really great. It's a little different format. It's essentially, if you're a Bethel student, it makes sense if I say it's a bunch of J terms just stacked on top of each other. Because I take one class for 6 weeks. That's my only class. And so that my first class actually finished this last Friday. And then now I start my second class. So it is a little different. So it's a focus on one class and you're going for 6 weeks. It's pretty intensive. But I kind of like the format too. So I'm not hopping from a bunch of different classes throughout the day.
So not to totally put you on the spot, but sort of. There's a lot of people out there wondering, hey, are we going to get another year of Jaren at quarterback? I think most people would say we'll take it. How do you think you're going to go about making that decision? And maybe not when, because I don't want you to, have to break any news here unless you want to. Obviously, we'd love that. But no, how are you thinking about that and how it fits into your life now?
For me, especially this was pre-COVID, like I would have said that I'll be here through 2020 and that's it. I'll graduate and be done. Obviously, with COVID, there's been some other circumstances that have chipped in that I, first of all, decided to come back this year after I graduated. I knew when the coaches had our meeting way back in the spring of 2020 when they said that we wouldn't be playing that fall. I told the coaches immediately I would be back. Was looking forward to it. And so looking forward to next year, I've really enjoyed this fall. It's been one of the most fun I've had during a football season. I've really enjoyed the guys. And so that definitely adds to the decision process of whether to come back or not. And I'll have being in graduate school too. Also, like I said, with those circumstances, the MIAC allowing that to happen has kind of also made it a more difficult decision. So my plan is to finish out this season. Hopefully we can make a run deep into the playoffs again. And then I'll take some time in the spring to kind of figure that out. I'll do some traveling, stick my head in the stand in Florida and see if I can come back with a decision. But no, like I said, I really enjoyed this fall, and it's been really memorable with some amazing people. So like I said, the decision will be made. I haven't made it yet. But there's definitely some things to think about.
So you said you ended up at the University of Minnesota Division I program, preferred walk-on. You had that opportunity to go do that thing. What brought you to Bethel?
So I've been around Bethel for as long as I can remember. My oldest sister graduated high school in 2013. And so when she was looking at schools, she decided to go. She visited 2 schools, Northwestern and Bethel. The first college visit I went on was with her to Bethel, and when I was in 8th grade. So I've been around Bethel for so long, fell in love with the place, the campus, the people, faculty, the staff as well. I've known Coach Jay since I was in 10th grade in high school, and he was already recruiting me. And people think it's weird when I say when I was narrowing down my college decision, I had chances to go play at a bunch of different schools, and I narrowed it down to the U of M, NDSU, and Bethel, which people thought was a joke because those three very different schools, and obviously NDSU and the U of M are at the Division I level, and Bethel's Division III. But it's like I said, it's the community, it's the people who are here, that I wouldn't only have the chance to grow in my athletic career, but also grow in my faith, grow as a person, with like-minded people that were going to push me in my faith. So I've been around it for so long. My 2 older sisters went here. I had the chance to spend 1 year with my sister, who was 2 years older than me. My first year in 2018, she was just graduating. She was a senior. So that was a lot of fun. But I gotta say, I've been around it for so long, and like I said, the people are phenomenal. So that's how I kind of got introduced to Bethel and have been involved with Bethel since.
So Jaren, talk a little bit about the level of football that's played, because part of what we're doing here is we're trying to reach recruits and families and parents. And like you said, University of Minnesota, NDSU, and Bethel, those are very different levels of football. But I think, and Coach Swann was on just before you, and he said people kind of sleep on the level of football that's played not only in the Division III, but just in the MIAC right in Minnesota. So maybe just talk a little bit about that in terms of kind of your experience with the level of football being played on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The competition and the level that's being played in the MIAC it's no joke. I think you look at some of the schools, obviously St. Thomas is no longer in the conference, but you still have St. John's. Gustavus is playing at a really high level. And some of these schools in our conference are gaining Division I transfers regularly. And I think you can talk to all of them. And I've certainly had discussions with players from St. John's and Gustavus, and we all say the same thing, that the level of competition is so high at Division III. And so, yeah, and then obviously you get into the playoffs and you're playing, the North Centrals, the Wheatons, Whitewaters, and those are guys that are Division I caliber guys. And there's a reason that so many teams, so many guys in the MIAC or in the WIAC, some of these conferences have chances to play at the next level, whether that be a tryout with an NFL team or play in the Canadian League or some of these other leagues around the United States and abroad. It just kind of shows the level of competition that we have in this conference. And like I said, I've had some unique situations with playing Division I, playing at the U of M. I always recount my first pass I ever threw at the U of M was 7-on-7 in the summer. It was just a 10-yard out route, and Antoine Winfield Jr. undercut it, picked it off, took it for 6. Well, that dude is picking off Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl as well. So kind of crazy in that sense, but there's guys that can do the same thing at this level, right? And so I think when I first came here, knew that it was a high level, wasn't entirely sure what I was getting into for some of it. So, and it's not just the teams at the top, it's teams, 1 through 10 all have so much talent. So definitely you're coming here to play a high level of football if you're coming to Bethel or you're coming to the MIAC in general.
You spoke to this in talking about the people and this, like what Bethel provides. Your opportunities there have led to some other really cool things, one of which relatively recently being the All-State Good Works team, and particularly kind of surrounding your experience with the Build program at Bethel. I have two questions about that. One, could you describe what that is and what's going on that you do there? And then secondly, we talk about all the time, if we're open and we're willing to give, we get a whole lot more than we give. What are you getting from that program that people might not see because they stop and say, oh man, the article in the Star Trib just said 60 hours a week, Jaren Rossdy's serving people. And people are on the outside go, oh man, that's so challenging. You're athlete and doing that. But we know that in serving people, we get a ton too. So what is Build and what are you getting from that program?
Yeah, so Build is a 2-year residential program with students with intellectual disabilities who don't always have the ability to go into post-secondary and attend a 4-year university in a traditional sense at a school. So Bethel provided a very unique opportunity where we're the only program in the state of Minnesota that is a residential program that allows students to not only live on campus, but be integrated into the learning environment of classes as well. So there are specific core Build classes for the students, but they also are able to take elective classes. So many students at Bethel will have a class in their 4 years with a student in Build, whether that be astronomy or pickleball or psychology, basic communication. So they integrate their learning into elective classes with traditional students as well. But it gives them a real college experience, which is difficult because there's not that many universities across the nation that allow that. And so we get students from all over the country that come in, are in our program and really enjoy and thrive in this environment. And like I said, with your second question, I think a lot of students at Bethel would agree that we as traditional students get so much and learn so much from students in Build as well. Whether you're working in the Build program as a student or job mentor, which is kind of how I started in the program, or if you're just even going to Thursday night bowling league with them, you just receive so much joy, and the way that they live their life is so happy-hearted, and it's just really inspiring to see how they live their everyday life. And like I said in the interview, that's the way I aspire to live my life, and then they just give me so much joy and so much energy that I might not always have. So I work in the program now. And I just love coming into work every day because I get to work with students who I know they love me, they care about me, and they want to see me succeed, and vice versa. Obviously, I work to see them succeed and for them to transition into living independently in this program, and so they can live on their own and work a job and have their own apartment in the future. That's the whole goal of the program, is to develop independent living skills, and that's what we do. And so I love showing up to work every day. And I think a lot of students around campus, like I said, will have so much joy, whether you're a mentor for them or if you're just saying hi to them in the hallway. They're always excited to see you and excited to learn from you. So that's what the program is. And like I said, it's so much fun to be a part of it.
How many students do you get to serve? How many are in the program of Build?
So right now, I believe there's 28, 13 or 14 are in the cohort 7, which is I work specifically with first-year students, and then cohort 6 is the second-year students, and they live in North Village. And the first-year students live in the first-year residential halls, so they live amongst traditional students, along with housing mentors who are kind of like RAs for the Build program. And so the whole idea behind that is learning to live with a roommate away from home, living in a shared community space, shared bathroom, etc. And then second year, you transition into North Village, which is cool because that is more apartment style living. So they can learn how to, clean living room, cook in a full kitchen, right? Know how to clean up and share a bathroom with roommates. So it's a really cool setup how we have it. But I think there's 13 in my group and 15 in the second year program. So a total of about 28 students.
What a gift to be able to be a part of that. Like you say, to get that joy from a place that's just, hey, we get this opportunity, like Coach Jay thing, don't treat as ordinary that which is extraordinary. Like we as high school students, a lot of time in the mainstream classroom is like, yeah, our next expectation is go to a 4-year institution. Well, we take that for granted. We choose to say that this is just normal. Well, for those students, it's not a norm. And now we've created that, right? Don't treat as ordinary that which is extraordinary. Being there is extraordinary, and having that joyful heart in that service is really awesome. Let's shift gears just quickly. We're in a place where we got 2 games left. By the time this comes out, there will be 1. What has the year been for you on field? And, what are the goals going forward? You talked a little about making the deep playoff run. What's that going to take?
Yeah. So the year has been, like I said before, it's been a lot of fun. Obviously shifted gears a little bit with offense coordinator. Greg Peterson was my offensive coordinator in 2018 through 2020. So happy for him that he was able to get that athletic director job, and he's thriving in that role. And I've talked to him numerous times, and he loves it. So now shifting a little, we've shifted a few things on the offense. Haven't changed a ton, but a few different things that AJ Parnell has brought in have been really, really good for me. I think that he's allowed me to improve as a player and a person, and just sharpen some aspects of my game that I didn't always have before. I think I'm with him and Matt Houston, who is kind of our passing game coordinator. He works with the wide receivers. They've given me a lot, pushed me a lot to improve my down the field throwing ability. And just takes pressure off of the run game and the offensive line. So the way we structured it, we've been successful this season. Obviously, we're continuing to hone in on some stuff and get and try to figure out how to finish drives, finish scoring in the red zone. But yeah, I think right now we're 7-1, and then fighting for, this is a championship game in its own this weekend. So because the winner against Augsburg will go to the MIAC championship game. So if we can take care of business this weekend, the date with St. John's on the 13th looms large. So it'll be a really fun game. And I think whether or not you have to win or lose to make the playoffs, right? If we win, we're in. So that's kind of our mindset. We win these last 2 games, we're in the playoffs. And that's what we have to do to start the deep playoff run is get into the playoffs in the first place. So that's our mindset. Take care of those 2 games. And then it's in our hands. We don't have to, hope that someone else loses or hope that something changes. We just have to win these 2 and we're in. So it's in front of us and we just have to take care of business. That's the plan.
What an incredible mindset to have, not only football, but this is about life too, right? Take care of your own business. Stop worrying about cheering for other people to lose or make a mistake or do all that stuff. Do your stuff, right? Be accountable to who you are and who you want to be, and live your life in a certain way. And I think that's one of the gifts that Bethel brings to young men like you and older, but still young men like us that are living the same way and are challenged in the same way to live a life of faith and of brotherhood and of community. And Jaren, I appreciate you taking time. I know your time is really valuable right now, but I know that you continue to give to your teammates and to those people that you're working with in the build program. And like Jamie said, there's no accounting for giving and how much we actually get back in return. So appreciate you joining us for this conversation today.
Yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate it. You're doing a great job. Love it.
We are now joined by Jay Hillbrands, former BU wide receiver and current, this is one of my questions for you, Jay, Senior Associate Athletic Director for External Relations. That's a long title, my man, but Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks, John and Jamie. Appreciate you guys doing this. I've been fortunate to listen to the first couple episodes, and it has a big impact on the Bethel family. So thanks for taking the time. It's great to be able to join you.
Absolutely. John mentioned your title. He didn't say where you are doing that. You are now a part of another family. You are a Husky at the University of Washington. What is it that you do, and how did you get there? Because that's a pretty cool job working in athletics at a major institution in the Pac-12.
No, I appreciate the question. Yeah, been super fortunate to be at a couple of awesome institutions along the way. And now we're in year 4 at the University of Washington. It's been a tremendous experience here, and a great question about what I do here. Oversee our external relations team. And so what does that mean? Our marketing, our communications, PR, branding, digital media, social media. So everything we're doing in messaging outside of the University of Washington, publicly, is something that I'll have a hand in, and have a fantastic group of staff members that could work alongside every day. Athletic director Jen Cohen, who's the best leader that I've ever been around, and just to watch her in a setting like this at the level that we're at with the amount of coaches and student athletes. We have 650 student athletes here, and our 22 sport programs, and 200 plus staff members, and just to be a part of it, watch somebody like that after my time at Bethel, and just getting a taste for the college athletics scene, and so now being in this position has been absolutely a great privilege for me.
So take us back. You said, you were at Bethel. We were talking before we hit record. We're all small town guys from relatively the same area in Minnesota. Tell us, how'd you get to Bethel, and what was that like making that jump?
Yeah, I love the small town connection. So I'm from Clara City, so not too far from where John grew up, and a couple hours from Nicollet, where Jamie is from. But Bethel was something that I knew about because I had a cousin that went to Bethel. And then my sister, one of my 2 sisters, went to Bethel, and she's 3 years older than me. So once she got on campus, I started to, follow the athletic department, the football program, basketball programs, and what they were doing. And so that really led me there, and just being able to connect with some of the coaches throughout the recruiting process, and going from, a small town to the big city was an intimidating start to a college journey, but super grateful for, that process, and being able to really get a feel for, what the university can offer, and seeing that through my sister, through my cousin, through some family friends that were alumni as well, was, a big part of the reason that decided to go to BU.
You had a pretty awesome journey in your experience there as an athlete. You got to be a part of that 2010 team that wins a region title and gets to be in the Final Four. You were also part of maybe the craziest experience I've ever witnessed at a football game, the Moorhead game, when they run out on the field and then you score the game winner, shortly after there's a penalty. It was a wild deal. I mean, I was there. It was crazy. It was a little bit surreal. I was trying to explain it to John before we pressed record, but you were a matchup nightmare because you were a big dude. I don't know. It's hard to articulate how that experience of playing at a high level, because I think a lot of people think Division III, how does that experience help you in the position you're at right now?
Totally. And yeah, you're right. And in the 2010 season was a time when I had suffered a season-ending injury, so I didn't get to be a part of actually playing on the field at the end of it out in Alliance, Ohio at Mount Union. But I think, hopefully one of the things we'll get into is just the growth from that, that experience of not being be able to be on the field and competing. And then you go to 2013, the last year that I was there, and we were fortunate to win a MIAC title, and how incredible that was. But the experience at Bethel and how it's prepared me for this time at Washington, there's just a ton of similarities in being a student athlete and now working on, the administrative side of the house. And I think just some of the lessons that I learned, the life principles that were taught and instilled from coaches that are still there doing it now. And you talk about Coach Johnson, and somebody who had, the biggest impact on me is Greg Peterson, now, our new athletic director. And, he was the offensive coordinator, worked with wide receivers. And that was, if you're talking to my parents, about this, and it's that was the reason that I went to Bethel, was because of the connection with Petey, and just felt like, hey, this is a guy that, as a parent, you trust him to take care of your son. And now as a new dad, that's all you can ask for. And Petey was always there, as what, the whole staff. I know you talked to Swann He's the best, but that whole crew and how much they care about you as a person. And I think now being on this side of it and being able to give back, because that experience I had at Bethel and doing the same for our student athletes and for, the staff that I get to work with and oversee and lead, those principles are the same. And so I think that's probably been, the thing that you think about every day when you wake up. And, I'm taking what, whether it's big or small, something from Bethel, each and every day, and trying to continue to build upon that. But to have, the incredible leadership that you have there, to have the teammates that you have there, the brotherhood, and what that teaches you, and how you want to be a leader, how you want to be, a husband and a father and a friend, and all those things are, just such an integral part of everyday life now. And so fortunate for that experience at Bethel, because it really shaped, I wouldn't be here now at the University of Washington in this position if it weren't for those people at Bethel who poured into me in the good times, the bad times, and so I'm forever indebted and grateful for that.
Who else in your life has, helped you? I mean, obviously Bethel's a big part of it, but whether it be your parents, your wife, whoever, who else has contributed to developing you as a man and a father right now?
My parents are amazing. Like, they gave me everything that you could ever dream of, and every opportunity, the support, never missing any events, but, being there when you talk about the injury or things, when things weren't great, like, they've been by my side and supportive every step of the way. And now they farm back in Clara City still, and I'm out in Seattle, and I'm not back on the farm. And that's a tough thing, right? It's tough for me. It's tough for my dad, for my mom, but how supportive they've been on this journey is incredible. And then you mentioned my wife, who's, I don't have words for her, and she's a Bethel alum, a volleyball player, same class. And the way that she challenges me, to be a better husband, just a better dad, a better person, and how she lives that out has been, so amazing. Like, I couldn't have dreamt of that, and to have that now and be able to do this together. And, we talk about Bethel all the time and how that brought us together. And now we get to make, our own family and go our own way and bring Bethel with us and make an impact that way. So those are the three people. My sisters too, and their families have had a huge impact on me. But, just there are so many people, but, those are the folks that you're with the most from day one and are with you every step of the way.
Man, I can't help but think I'm sure other programs have this experience where everybody speaks similarly, and obviously not everybody coming out of Bethel has the same experience, but to hear you say, every day there's something that comes up that reminds me of my time, and it's something that I can use. And Swanny said, like, in our conversation, this place will change you if you let it. Right. And what an incredible gift. And again, I hope other programs are figuring out how to do that too, but I know that Bethel does it. So you mentioned getting injured, and I guess I didn't even think about that. I had an injury my freshman year. I was going to play basketball and football both, and had an injury and almost quit. I got lazy, got out of shape, poor me, the whole thing, right? And I can remember very specific conversations with Rick Meyer, who was my brother's teammate, and he came up to me, he found me in the hall, and he's like, dude, what is going on? And I remember having a 30-minute conversation with him about it, and him just seeking me out and having that conversation. And so talk a little bit about your injury and what that was like mentally, emotionally, to be a part of that team, but also not in some ways.
Yeah, no, absolutely, John. I think as a lot of us, and not to speak for either you or Jamie, but my identity was really tied up in football and sport overall, from coming from high school. And this was my sophomore season, and you're 19 years old and trying to figure it out, right? And navigate all the things that are thrown your way. And then all of a sudden that kind of comes in and football is removed. And it definitely is a wake up call, right? Like, what matters and what doesn't matter. And I think that was probably talking about a season, like a make or break, like the time and the response to that, and the adversity and what that teaches you. And I think, going back to the previous comment about every day, thinking about, how Bethel impacts me, like that adversity, like every day we're going to face adversity, right? And that could be a big thing, that can be a small thing. But I think just that whole season, the next 8-9 weeks of watching on the sideline and finding a different role within the team, and finding your purpose other than being on the field, and how you can make a difference. That's a life lesson that I carry with me now every day. But one of the things, goes back to the people too, and talking about Coach Petey, but Justin Byers, who's still at BU, he was our head football athletic trainer. I think about the time that Justin poured into me, right? Justin's a dad, a husband, and just after that, there were other guys that were banged up, but the appointments at the clinic and physical therapy, all those things, going out of his way to care about me as a person is something that still really has a big impact on me. And I think, just how to treat people was one of the things that Bethel, that shows and displays and models so well. So going through that and having people who are able to encourage you and challenge you in different ways when you're not, being able to run a route or do something in the game, like what are you going to do? And are you going to feel sorry for yourself? And, it's all this me mentality, right? That's where we are as a society. Like, what am I going to get out of it? But, Coach Johnson talks about, give your heart away for free. And, we were talking before we got on, about when you give, right, instead of get, like the impact and the feeling that you get back is so much greater. And I think that season really taught me that. And I think the maturity level going into the future years at Bethel was totally different because of that. And so it sounds weird to say, but I'm grateful that I had to do that. I would have obviously loved to be out there playing with the guys and making that run. But, the next 10, 15, 20 years and how that will forever impact me, that's the part that really sticks with me.
I think you said something that, if I'm a parent out there, you said it about Petey, like he cares about you. You're willing to give your child over to there, right? I have a daughter. Yeah. We have one on the way. Your new dad also, like thinking about how do you give your kid to a program? Well, when you're hurt, when you're injured, you become less than in a lot of colleges. And I don't speak for everyone. I actually played and competed at another institution and had an injury myself, and you kind of get pushed aside, not all the time, right? Especially not from the guys, but sometimes from the coaches, you feel that way. Bethel wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. They brought you into the fold. They pulled you back in. Somebody's going to hunt you down in the hallway and say, what is going on, man? We love you. We care about you. We need you no matter what you can do physically. And, that is a gift. And I hope you are able to give that to your athletes out there as well. And I know that you're doing that. We are incredibly grateful you chose to speak to your experience there and how that's shaped your opportunities out there, because you're doing really cool things. And we wanted to highlight what you're up to, but how this place, again, keeps giving a great stuff to us. And thanks for joining us. Appreciate you. Good luck. Go Huskies. Pat Parnell will be really happy I just said that out loud.
Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jamie. And thanks to John for doing this and for the opportunity. And it's just such a special place. So I'm glad that we get to highlight it and people can hear about it. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of We Are BU. We'll be back in a couple of weeks with another fantastic conversation. In the meantime, check out the Bethel Athletics website for up-to-date scores, team schedules, highlights, all those sorts of things. The biggest thing that we ask about this and our goal is to grow one another, to get better every day. Subscribe, follow, and share it with somebody that you think may find value. It's a great day to be a Royal. See you next time.